Harmony. I am super, super excited that you are here with us today. If you're catching the replay, feel free to skip ahead. The conversation starts about 3 minutes in. And if you are live with us here, well, we're just waiting so that everyone can see their alerts and make it here in time for that conversation to start. So while you're waiting, feel free to grab a nice ice cold drink to sip on, or even better for me, if you could let me know in the chat, because I've been super curious. How did you find out about this episode? Have you known about the podcast? Have you been here since day one? Or is this something that one of the artists on the panel shared in their stories, shared a link with you, and that's how you made your way here? I'm just so curious to know how the word is spreading for this relatively new podcast. And yeah, let's get into episode 12 here really soon. I think it's going to be a fabulous conversation. I can't wait to be able to introduce or have the artists introduce themselves. And yeah, I'm just wondering, actually, do you already have questions right off the bat? Is there anything that you just really hope gets talked about? If there is, you can up your odds of the question being picked by putting it in the chat right away. So making sure we don't run out of time, and we can't always discuss all questions. But yeah, up your odds by throwing the questions in as soon as you think of them. You do not have to wait until I ask you for questions at the end. Throw it into the chat whenever it pops into your mind, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to cover it. So just a few more seconds, and then we can start real soon. I hope you are as excited as I am. Hey, welcome. I'm Harmony. I'm a watercolor artist and the host of this podcast, Harmony and Friends, Casual Conversations about Art and Business. I hope that this podcast is really like going to the local coffee shop and meeting up with your art business besties and really just candidly talk about some art business topics. And hopefully it can fill the hole if you don't have that community built yet for yourself. Today, we are going to talk about a really interesting subject, and that is the idea of building an income stream with online courses. So either focus on art or art business. And I have 3 incredible artists who have some experience in that area that are willing to share everything they know with you today. And I'm actually really glad if you are here with us live, because it's gorgeous outside and there's not a lot of people here with us today. I know tons of people are going to catch the replay. I got so many messages about that. But if you are here, please do interact in the chat. Get your questions out there. It makes it so much more fun for everybody. And the first question I have for you watching is, what is the favorite course that you have ever taken? Hopefully it's about art, something like that. And let us know why. What made it so special? Why do you think you really enjoyed it? Alrighty, so let us jump in and welcome our artists. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to ask you to just start right away. Denise, I'm going to start with you because you happen to be on the top there. And what I'd love is kind of the elevator pitch of who you are. What is your art business? Give us a little overview of what you do in about 2 minutes.
Okay. I'm Denise Ann Palmer, and so my website is Denise Ann. It's ANNE at the end. And so I've been in art business since I started my business back in 2009, and just started a stationery business. I was doing custom stationery and things like that. I did that for about 5 years. And then I decided that I didn't like doing custom stationery. I wanted to focus on illustration because drawing was what I'm super passionate about. And so I started that back in like 2015, 2016, and been doing that ever since. And I started out doing just putting my work out there online on marketplaces. And that was where I got started. And then I started getting custom commissions from brands and started working with them to develop artwork for their products. And then most recently, I started working on courses and teaching what I know to everyone, to students. So, yeah. So,
yeah, that's an interesting journey. I'm really glad that you are sharing what you know in that course format from all those years of maybe trial and error, finding your way. Thanks, Denise. Rebecca, welcome back. If you have watched the podcast before, you might remember Rebecca. I think you were here in the very first episode. Is that right? About email newsletters. Wow.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, give us a little intro anyway, because there might be some people watching who did not catch that first episode.
Okay. Thanks for having me again. My name is Rebecca Woolbright, and I run a product-based business called Rebecca Jane Woolbright. And it's been about 7 years that I've been sourcing and manufacturing products. I do that both domestically and overseas. And I kind of got started with education by doing a live workshop in Stacy Bloomfield's membership. And it was all about washi tape. And I had nothing was on my radar about teaching ever. And I did that class and I was like, well, that was kind of fun. And then I had a ton of people coming back to me and were like, that was great. Can you tell us how to do that more? And I was like, not yet, no. And then I made a washi tape class on Skillshare. And then I added tea towels to my product line that were hem to hem printed. And so that created a lot of conversation. And so I started small groups where now I walk people through overseas manufacturing and sourcing primarily tea towels, but now people are jumping in and sourcing other products as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Denise, sorry to jump back for a comparison. Is your course more art focused or more art business focused?
It's more art focused. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both. Ohn Mar, how about you?
Hi, I'm Ohn Mar. I'm based in the UK, and way back, I did graduate as an illustration student, and I worked as an in-house artist, what became part of Hallmark cards. And at the same time, I was an editorial illustrator for lots of health and beauty magazines. And then I took a massive long break to raise my 2 kids. And that was 8 years out of the industry.
Wow.
And I came back around about 2013. I did an online course when that was a brand new thing. And I'd never had a website. And originally I just did a lot of food illustration, and a lot of my early business this time round was based on packaging for food brands. I still do a lot of it now, but now, so my first Skillshare class was about food illustration. And then I started teaching more about watercolors and sketchbook practice. And it's just kind of developed organically. Like Rebecca, I never meant to teach. It just happened that way, and which I'm very pleased. It's worked out well for me.
That's so great. That's interesting. But and now do you still do? You said you still do some food illustration as well, or is teaching one of your main focuses?
It was for the Boston Globe. And no, actually, no. The last but one was for Boston Globe, and then I've just done something for a soup, a client in the UK for a soup.
Very cool. Thank you. It's interesting how you all ended up with teaching. I'm definitely curious about those watching, kind of if this is something that's coming from them or if they've already received requests for it. But either way is obviously fine. Alrighty. So I am going to ask a round of questions now. Each of you, please answer. We'll just kind of go around in a circle. We'll always start with you, Denise, and just keep moving through this. This is like really quick kind of answers, just so that everyone watching knows where you're coming from, what your current experience level is, and yeah, just really quick questions. And something that's always interesting as well, because this is an art business podcast, is most artists don't have a single income stream. So I'm interested to hear, you don't have to tell me how much you make, you don't have to tell me how much you make in which one, but just give us a list of the different kind of income streams that you have built for yourself. Denise.
Okay. Well, I started out with selling my artwork on marketplaces. So that was where I started, because I decided to focus on illustration. And I was like, well, it can't just sit in a drawer in my studio. Like, I needed to actually do something with it. And I was like, well, this is how I can get started. So I started selling on online marketplaces, and so that was my very first revenue stream, and it still is today. I still do that, although not as much as I did before. And then I started receiving custom commission requests from brands. And so then I started doing a lot of custom work for them. And so doing custom commissions and then also licensing my artwork. So that's another income stream. And then from there, I decided to do a few Skillshare classes. I don't have as many as some people, but so I wanted to learn, okay, how do I do a class? How do I teach? And so that was how I got started with that. And then about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I decided, I was like, I really want to teach an in-depth course. And so that's where I got started with the course piece. And so I'm very new to a full online course on my own platform. So yeah, so that's those are my main income streams, those three. So yeah.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Yeah, so I'm similar. I sell my artwork on my own website and on Etsy. And I also wholesale it to stores around the world. And then I also license my artwork. And then I have added this education piece in the last year, pretty much.
Thank you. Ohn Mar?
So I would say at the moment, half my income comes from online teaching, but added to that, I've started teaching at retreats, which is not as much, but I can see it could get a larger part of the pie, and also the food illustration side of things. And I still receive a little income from doodles that I sold on stock images many years ago, but it's great. I still get like money coming in every month, and I've done nothing, and I get a tiny amount, not tiny, a fair small amount from art licensing. Is there anything else? Maybe, teeny weeny bit from affiliate links and collaborations.
Cool. Very helpful. Thank you for sharing all that. It always blows my mind how many income streams you have. And then at the same time, my immediate question is kind of like, I'm assuming you built one at a time, right? Because if you just like spend an hour here or there on each one, you're not really going to gain traction. Is that what all of you did?
Yeah. Yeah. The doodles were something that I did even before I took the online course. I was just selling really old stuff from my in-house artist days, and it's just like, like I'm getting like 50 cents for that. I'm going to make some more, and I'm still receiving an income. It's like, wow,
that's really great. That's nice when you put in that work once and it just keeps coming. Nice. Alrighty, we're going to move on to the next quick question, which is when did you launch your first course and how many have you launched since? And if it's just one, that's totally fine. That's more than many of us here watching. I don't have one, so.
So me first, right? Well, if you're not talking classes, if you're talking like on my own platform.
No, anything. Skillshare totally all counts.
Okay.
Like,
Gosh, I don't remember when I did or Skillshare. I don't remember when I did that. So I'll just say my really first one that was on my own platform was my Illustrating Leaves and Procreate mini course. It's a free course that I started, and I basically launched my website and the mini course at the same time, my new website and the mini course. And I did it to, do two things. One was to, give everyone, a quick win and lead into what my main course is and help people with illustrating plants. And then, so from there, my main course is Florals for Products. And that was launched in April of this year. That was my very first main course launch. So that was a paid course. So yeah, so very, very recently.
That's how I found you, Denise. I was this close to purchasing. I know that doesn't help you, but how, I don't know if you're like this. I have this backlog of courses that I've purchased that I just need to prioritize actually finishing all of them because, you're doing this for your art business and this, and it's just I still need to finish this in this course. So I just couldn't commit to purchasing another course without making sure I have the time to do it. But it looked absolutely gorgeous. And I think that's how you originally ended up on my Instagram feed.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, now I have a couple courses that I want to take myself. So, and so I know. Well, I mean, I didn't use any ads for this first go around, and I need to learn about that. So that's so there's a course on using ads that I'm really interested in. So yeah, so I can I can relate to courses. But yeah.
Thanks for sharing your background. Rebecca, how about you? I think you said you actually were doing live workshops, and maybe now you're moving on to recorded sessions.
I can't say I'm moving on. I really love the live format.
Okay.
I launched a Skillshare class. I feel like it was 3 years ago, right after about the time I did the washi tape class in Stacy's membership. So that has been living for a while. And then I launched my group. It's called Manufacture Awesome. And I launched them last year. And I'm in the 4th round. We're just finishing up this current group. And I love the live format. It's so fun to get to know people and really walk people through the whole process, and they can ask questions of me, and I love to answer if I know the answer, and just it's a really cool way to build relationship with other artists. But with that said, I can only do so many in a year, and I also have small kids, and so my time is limited. So there's a recorded thing in the works, and that will be my first on my own platform.
Exciting. Yeah, we'll talk all about the technical details that you're all using in a few minutes. All right, Ohn Mar?
I was really trying to rack my brain. I think I launched in 2016, and I began, this was on Skillshare, my first class, and I had a really antiquated Mac. I think I tried to launch before, but my Mac couldn't handle iMovie. So I sort of abandoned it, but they reached out to me, and I thought, well, yeah, I'm going to give this a go, because by that time I'd become a single parent. And I thought, well, if I can make a bit of money from this, that'll really help. And it did really well. So I was really pleased about that. And I've launched, I've just done my 30th, and some have done better than others. So I do a mixture of watercolor practice, social media, sort of mindset type stuff, and consistent practice to get into the mindset of practicing.
I didn't catch the number. Did you say 30?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not sure. I didn't know if I heard right. That's really impressive. That's so cool that you've been able to take it from that, one idea of, hey, maybe I can make this work, to really, consistently making it a huge part of your art business. That's incredible. Very cool. Alrighty. So we're going to move on to a round now, which is much more open. So we're not going to go around in a circle. You don't all have to answer. This is much more casual and conversational. If you have something you want to add, feel free to just jump in. If you want to go off on a tangent or two, I'll let you. All right. So the first question I have for anyone that wants to take it is, how long does it take you to prepare a course end to end, like from your initial idea to launch, recording, everything in between?
It took me a long time. I didn't know anything about the equipment to use, or having like a lav mic and the settings on the computer. I mean, I filmed part of my Skillshare class and they came back and were like, this is not the right dimension. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I even doing?
No.
So now I think I kind of could have a good timeline, but I think it still takes me like 2 to 3 months to really make it something I want to share.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mine's like, if I'm doing like a Skillshare class, it's 2 to 3 months. But my the Illustrating Leaves mini course took me a month. Because I was still learning video editing, even though I did 2 Skillshare classes. It's still hard, and then when I came up with the idea for my course, Florals for Products, that it from initial idea, it took me about 1.5 years. I know it sounds so long, but like I went through like just interviewing potential students, like my ideal customer, and I did 11 interviews to see what they were struggling with and things like that. So I really did a lot of research before I actually created the course. And so there was a lot of that, and there was some summer breaks in between. And so it did take me a little bit longer, and I did a lot of the video editing myself initially, and that was really hard. Think about how many I have 6 modules in my course, and so the amount of videos, it would take me a week to complete one video that I edited. And so depending on what kind of video it was, if it was a tutorial where it was overhead shots and I was actually had filmed what I was doing, that took longer than, say, more informational type of video. And so it was learning how to do that. And I did most of the editing of the course, but towards the end I did hire help.
That makes total sense. I understand, because the reason that we're all here for a live stream is, yes, it's interactive, it's more fun and all that, but also it doesn't take like 20 hours of editing. So it's just, that it's out there. Yeah. So I love it. And maybe that's kind of Rebecca's approach a little bit with the live groups as well. But, like Rebecca said, if you go that route, then you can't, just have someone choose it at their own time and play it again and again. So pros and cons, but very interesting. All right. Ohn Mar, any thoughts, or we can skip it?
If I did nothing but create a class, I could probably pull it together in about 2 or 3 weeks. If I did nothing, but there is always like, take the kids to, I don't know, like the doctors, or there's always, so probably a more realistic timeline is more like a month, and that's like a good month.
Yeah. Very interesting. Cool. Well, I think that's helpful for everyone watching, especially if it's the first time you're doing it, it might take even longer. So, don't think you're going to have this course ready in a week. Maybe give yourself a quarter to finish it.
Yeah.
All righty. So then I have another question, and I know it differs based on, your approach, but in general, what kind of investments do you make into a course? Again, if you want to give actual figures, that's really helpful and transparent. But if you just want to give kind of buckets of like, you need to pay for X and Y, that's totally cool too. So the question is, what kind of investment do you make into a course? What costs should artists who want to create a course keep in mind?
I guess I'll go first. It's very recent in my mind. So I think one of the hardest things for me was initially deciding on what platform to host my course. There were a lot of options, and some of them were very expensive. And I didn't realize going in that how expensive those platforms can be, and the costs can really add up. So we ended up choosing Thrivecart, and it was literally because and Thrivecart and the Learn Plus platform, because I decided to choose the path of least resistance for me, because I had purchased Thrivecart a couple of years prior and I never did anything with it. I was like, this is going to be something I'm definitely going to use and stuff, and so it ended up being, the right choice for me. And I believe I paid $700 at the time when I bought it, and then the Learn Plus piece was an additional $197 or something like that. I can't remember, but that's a one-time fee. Like, you don't pay it again. And then I also I use Vimeo Pro. It's okay, but it works and it integrates. I'm able to embed it into the course platform. And so, but yeah, like when I was researching, I did not realize how expensive some of the other platforms are. And, it's my first time having my own course platform kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure I kept the costs reasonable for the longevity of doing what I'm doing. It may not have, everything that some of the other ones that you pay a lot more money for have, but because some of the other ones, they have email built in and all that kind of stuff. And so, and I was like, I already have an email provider, so yeah. So
it's so tempting. I congratulate you on that, because it's so tempting, I think, to want to go with the full version and have this dream of if I invest now and then it's just going to pay off forever because this is going to be my thing. But it's kind of good to just maybe test the waters. So I think maybe you're a little smarter than me on some of those things. So yeah, you can always upgrade later, right? So, and you said you also hired some kind of help. Can you just mention what help?
So I originally, wanted to launch my Florals for Products course in the fall of last year. And, it was just taking me so long with the editing. And so I ended up hiring a video editor to help me. She was recommended by a friend of mine, and she was fantastic. So I loved working with her. It wasn't the cost that I initially had planned, but she basically edited all of module 6, all of the last module for me. And so it was really nice to be the client on the other end, and have someone who I could rely on to do that for me. And but I am also still grateful that I spent the time to learn how to edit, because there is more stuff that I want to do later on, and I use iMovie to do all of my editing, and I've gotten a lot faster with it. It no longer takes me a week to edit one video. It's much faster now. I can do quite a few videos in a week now. So so I think it's all just doing what you can and learning as you go. And I mean, I think that's how we all started as artists, and and so, and if you need help, don't be afraid to hire it out if you can do it. So yeah.
It's really nice. To me,
Um,
editing would be the first, and then otherwise in my art business, like taxes, like all the stuff I really don't want to do. If I can somehow afford one day to not do them, it's gonna be the first thing that goes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, Rebecca, I interrupted you.
Oh, it's okay. When I started doing Manufacture Awesome as a group, I wanted to keep it very bare bones because I had no idea how it would be received. So I sold the course or the group on my Squarespace platform, it actually worked great because I wanted to cap the number of people. And so because it's commerce, I could set a limited number of seats. And then I hosted all my videos on YouTube and I sent them out through my email, the replay or the link. And so I had to have Zoom, which was the update, like the upgraded version. And then the second group, what was the problem with that? Oh, the email. I wanted more emails on the back end. Like once they signed up, I wanted more of a welcome sequence. So then for the next group, I upgraded my Flowdesk to the checkout, the beta checkout, because I wanted that workflow behind it, but then you couldn't cap the number of people. So I was like having to be like sitting there, and I actually hired someone to help me sit there because I didn't want to oversell. And so that's a limitation with that. And then this time I landed actually on Thrivecart as well, because now I can upload my videos to Thrivecart and they have a place to live. And so people can now log in, and you can also cap the number of people. And I'm so thrilled because I too was like, well, maybe I really need Kajabi. You know, do I want this? And Kajabi is so expensive. It's like $200 a month. And when you're starting out to put that number in your budget, I just couldn't do it. Even having all these other income streams, it was like, that's not feasible for me. So I too am a fan of Thrivecart, and it's working great for this group. So I think the only other, it was Zoom and Vimeo and Thrivecart really to start out.
Yeah, that's
And
what
a few, I had to go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I was just agreeing. I was like, that's what I do.
Yeah. And it's working. I think that just to highlight the big difference is that there's not a community element with Thrivecart, but I feel like I'm still an open book and I'm very accessible. So if people want to email me from the group, they do. Or we also have a Voxer channel. And so I do have the upgraded Voxer, which is like a walkie-talkie app that you can just have conversation back and forth for the duration of the group.
Very cool. That's interesting to see that progression.
Yeah.
The tools you use, again, a very wise approach, right? So maybe don't go for the Rolls Royce of, the online teaching with your very first one if you haven't even sold it. So very sensible, Rebecca. Do you want to jump in at all, or otherwise I'll pull up the next question?
I was going to say, I've not created my own course on my own platform yet. So I am researching things like Thrivecart and Teachable and various other things like how they work out taxes and things like that. But so when I first started, I just used my iPhone and I bought a lav mic. But now I have upgraded to sort of a semi-professional microphone, and I still use iPhones because most of it is overhead work, the demos, and lighting. I've got better lighting. But I still just, I keep it as simple as possible. Some teachers have a ton of equipment, but I just really want a simple life.
I like that sentence. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So another vote for not going all out unnecessarily. That's really refreshing to hear. I think encouraging for everyone that's watching that maybe the barrier isn't that big, to give it a go.
I just have even now, iPhone 13 Pro. I have used an editor in the past, but that was because I physically could not take on, and it was all talking head. Where I was just talking and I had a script. I had a script and she just videoed me and edited for me. So that's the only time that I hired out the editing.
Interesting. Wow, that's a lot of editing you've done then with 30 courses. That's impressive. Wow. All right. So I have a quick question for those of you watching. So this is an audience question. What do you want to create a course about? Do you have an idea? And what is your biggest fear about creating that course? So let us know in the chat. And then I'm going to bring up the next question here for the group. So I don't know if you know anything off the top of your head, and if not, we'll skip the question. But we've already talked about the technical setup as far as the platforms. iPhones have been mentioned. Is there anything else with camera, lighting, microphones, any recommendations that you have, anything that's working well for you?
I also, I forgot to mention, I invested in a teleprompter for my talking heads. I don't like memorizing stuff. I just can't do it. So that was great. That was about £100 off Amazon. And I have a canvas lamp, which angles and it can be overhead, again, made for iPhones. And yeah, I could make my setup so much more advanced, but it works for me, man. You know, why would I? It ain't broke. I'm still managing to get by.
Yeah, that's very, very encouraging.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest thing is that I have my laptop right now elevated and it's just on a cardboard box. And it's just like to echo that sentiment of keep it as simple as possible. You don't need all the fancy things.
Makes total sense.
Mhm.
All right. So then I have another question, which is once you have created this beautiful course and poured your heart and soul into it for a few months, how do you market your courses? Is that something that you feel like you do very well? Do you need help with it yourself? Do you have any recommendations for those just starting out?
I just marketed my course mainly to my email list. I did post on Instagram and, had it go to Facebook and stuff like that. But I wanted to, my first launch, I didn't want to mess with ads because I was like, that's just too overwhelming for me right now. And I was like, I need to just get this out there. And so that's what I did. And, now that I've wrapped up, the course is finished, I am going to focus on learning, ads and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, so that just felt like a little bit too much for me at the moment when I was starting. So, and I think, if you take it one step at a time, all the pieces that you have to learn how to do, building your own course platform and all those things is hard. And, you give yourself some grace as you're going through that. And then, you don't have to have everything figured out starting out. And so that's kind of what I've learned so far. And, I want to get better at marketing. I think that's something a lot of artists struggle with. And, I've gotten a lot of art marketing books and things like that and classes. I think my dog just opened the door. He likes to open my door.
So, no, I feel you though on the marketing. I mean, it's like as an artist, you're supposed to wear like 20 different hats, right? So it's not everyone is some genius at marketing. So I think that's totally fine to admit it. And like you said, I think it's so good to kind of start messy, right? Like do it anyway, like figure it out. You can always get better, do another one, improve as you go, but don't let it hold you back because you can't figure out how to market it. I mean, that would be sad to not create the course. Any other input on this one?
I would say if I'm not making as many courses as I used to right now, but I would tease. All right, so what I actually do, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. What came first? Was it the course idea or was it where I'm going normally in my sketchbook? And so I don't have my tonal sketchbook, but about this time last year, I was doing a whole series of tonal things in the tone sketchbook using just white and black pen, and people were saying, "Oh, how'd you do that?" And I thought, "Oh, that would be good." So I start creating a whole load of artwork to back up my claim that I know loads about tonal paper, which I didn't do at the time. And that also makes really great B-roll, and I can start teasing. Take photographs, put it in my newsletter, put it, and also Skillshare have an inbuilt discussions system. So I might tease it maybe 2 months, 3 months before and say, oh, I've started filming, and I might show this is my filming days, and I'm editing today, and class will launch at the end of the week, just to try and build up excitement. But I am not the best at marketing. Some people have it completely down, like, oh, I do this, and it's like, oh God, whatever I've got time for. I don't have a set. I'm not rigid just because I'm still a single parent, and it's like whatever I can fit in, I'll do.
But I mean, I really appreciate that honesty. And I think sometimes that authenticity is what actually makes you engaging as an artist from the outside, right? I kind of like that when you're just like, this is what I'm working on. This is the behind the scenes. This is my real life. Hey, hectic week with my kids. I actually find that is kind of brilliant marketing, like whether you intend to or not. I think that speaks to a lot of artists. And sometimes I think we actually overcomplicate like what you need to do. Like you just show up regularly, consistently as yourself. Like that's kind of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely, for the first group, I showed up and just talked about it the same way in my stories. And because I had a limited number of seats, it was really also just validating the idea that I only sold 10. And they sold out very quickly. So it validated the idea. So I knew the next time I needed to talk about it a little bit more. And then I created an opt-in that will funnel people to my webpage, Manufacture Awesome. And I do have ad spend behind that. And so that's always generating new people coming to my site. And what I've realized in the last like 4 months is then once I have those people on my email list, which is also kind of tying together our newsletter talk, I had to talk to them. And I didn't know really what to say in the beginning because I'm still really new at educating in this way. So I opened it up to my audience to submit their questions. And so now I have a biweekly newsletter that goes out answering manufacturing questions, which is just helping to keep that audience engaged. And it's turned into like art business 101. I feel like there's questions about platforms, there's questions about washi tape. We're covering all the bases. And so I feel like that's constantly marketing in a way that I'm also willing to share, and just because I really love giving free information too. Like I really think that if there's one thing that's holding someone back, just ask the question. And what if that sets you on your path? And so sometimes we don't need to pay for everything.
Now you're really downplaying though what you do. I have to say, I feel like you are the master of the email funnels. Like you are really good. Your setup, no, it really is really good. Like I really enjoy being in the funnel.
Wow, thanks.
I think you really. It seems very intentional and it's super effective. And like you said, you share a ton of, information value for other artists. Like I think you've actually put a lot of thought into that. And of course you mix it, like you said, with more spontaneous, stories and everything. But I think you've actually done quite a brilliant job with your email marketing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Let us see. Okay, so kind of an interesting question. Has creating courses been a good investment for your business? Why or why not?
Yes.
Yes.
Like I said before, it was not anything that I had envisaged, and it came about because I meant to say, when I came back into the creative field after raising kids, I took Skillshare lessons just because I didn't know what Photoshop had done in the previous 8 years, and I needed better skills myself. And I took courses on hand lettering and Photoshop, Illustrator, and I thought I was going to go into art licensing more. So I was trying to gear up a new portfolio for that, but in the meantime, I had started my own watercolor practice. I was completely self-taught, and people wanted to know more about that. So I started creating little, quite short classes on Skillshare, and then they said, like, can you just create a class about your sketch, like how to keep a sketchbook practice? And I thought, okay, like, how can I do this easily? Like, because there's a school of thought, people say, just show me how to paint, just show me how to paint. Like, no, I could show you 30 different techniques. It doesn't mean you will practice 30 different days. Like, you need to get into the mindset of, do you want to practice? What are your whys? What are your reasons? Do you have a clean desk space? How are you going to create the time to do it? And I was more into that side of things. And so I created a class around that, and that really helped me out to solidify. Oh, she's like, by that stage, I'd done like 100-day projects and 365-day projects. So that kind of solidified my brand, or I hate using that word, but it helped.
Makes a lot of sense.
I guess I'll answer too. I just want to say it's storming here, so hopefully I don't lose power. It's like really raining outside, so
all your golden nuggets right now before you drop.
So, well, sometimes we lose power here, and then just hoping that it doesn't. It's just been like the weather is just crazy right now. So, as you said, it's beautiful where you're at. It's like so stormy today. But yeah, creating courses has been a good investment. In terms of like, what I really love is seeing what the students create from, you know, learning from you. And it's just really, it feels really good to help them. And, you know, that's been like the best part of it for me. And getting their questions and being able to answer it, and just feel like they're your people. And, you know, I just love that connection. So I will absolutely continue creating courses, and I've kind of done something to like streamline more videos and things like that. So I got a canvas lamp too. So I just got mine, and I can't wait to use it. But I had, my setup was like, I had this big bar, and it was actually over this big table, and it was like, you know, and it took up like a lot of my room. And so I'm excited to use the canvas lamp from here on out. It's like, so pretty over there. And
game changer. Absolute game changer.
I can't wait. And I do watercolor as well. And, you know, I think it's just going to make it a lot easier in terms of just leaving everything out ready to record when I'm, you know, either illustrating in Procreate or, you know, painting or whatever. It's just, I can just leave it all set up and not feel like I have this huge thing taking up my entire so yeah, I really love the teaching piece. Yeah. So
I can also, yeah, I agree. It's been, I think it just was, being that it was never on my, even on my board at all. And I think that I've went from making like $2.50 for a wholesale washi tape class, or like a roll of washi tape, and watching what is possible. And it's not like a huge infusion of money, but it was to me, to be like, okay, people are going to invest in what I'm having to say. And I think that's been the hardest part, is like believing that what you're putting out there is worthwhile. And so it's done, I think it's a two-way street. Like you're watching people grow and build their businesses and maybe source product or build their art business. But at the same time, it's building your own self-confidence in what you're doing. And I mean, both are so valuable.
Yeah, that can be tough, just putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
I am going to give everyone watching one more chance. I have a few more questions, but I want to make sure we leave time for yours. So if you are watching the live stream, please feel free to pop questions into the live chat. So what questions do you have about creating online courses? Use your chance. You have these 3 artists here that are willing to give it their best attempt at answering the questions. And with that, I have actually a few more questions. Let's see. I want to ask this of you, Ohn Mar, because you had mentioned something while you were creating or giving me feedback in your preparation. And that was that you had a pretty cool outcome that came out of one of the courses that you created. And I'd love
Yeah. So ironically, it was, I should have, can I go and grab the
Yes, of course. I'll read the question while you're off screen because I just skipped that part. So my question for Ohn Mar and for everybody else, if you have anything like that to share, is there anything that happened as a result of a course that has been a big win for you as an artist, art business person?
So this is a sketchbook that I started in April 9th, 2020, which was literally a few weeks after lockdown happened in the UK. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what you guys were doing, but we were not allowed to go out very far, literally like 100 meters from the house. But so I would go walking and I would just paint anything that I saw. So I started filling up this sketchbook with watercolors and ink. And that's what I did. I was like, I use sketchbooks as therapy. And I posted it on social media and people were going wild for it. And I thought, oh, maybe I should do a course about this. Not thinking very much about it, but it was quite a lengthy course because I talked about form and shape and contrast. And the course did really well. And then about a year after the course came out, a publisher said, oh, can you create a book based on this particular technique? And I said, oh, yeah, go on then. And that was a really steep learning curve, and it wasn't just about florals. It was this is the book, go with the flow painting, and I had to include things like warm-up techniques. I had to explain like wet on wet, so it was a very, very in-depth book. And at the back there was a chapter on painting flowers. Sorry, I'm trying to angle my there's also things on travel, and I'd never written a book. I didn't know, how it was going to do, but then there's a little section on food, which I really enjoyed doing. So that was good.
That's so exciting. That's
awesome.
That's amazing.
So off the back of that COVID lockdown, that happened. So that's definitely a big, silver lining.
Yeah, that's so great because your course was already doing well, so you were already kind of getting all those wins that you were targeting with your course, and then to have that happen on top, I think is just what a dream and well deserved. Very cool.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any cool things that happened unexpectedly or maybe exceeded their hopes and expectations? It's coming.
I think it just speaks to I think you can never know who's watching. And so like it is about putting yourself out there. And I mean, I've had conversations with people that I'm licensing artwork with, and they're like, well, we saw that you do this class. And I'm like, you did? Like, who am I really? And then they're like, yeah, tell us about that. And I'm like, okay. So you just like, the more you put out there, it's like, you never know who is watching you in a good way, not in a creepy, weird way.
Makes sense. Yeah. And yeah. I mean, I think it does, like you see with the book, but in general, right? Just kind of make you more of an authority in what you're doing, right? To be able to teach, I think then people are looking to you. And so I think that's just added value for, even if you don't like the word, your brand.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a few audience questions. Let us start with April Monkey Mintaka asks, would you guys recommend uploading to a platform like Skillshare or popping it on your own website? Any opinions? Oops.
I can only talk because I've yet to create my own course. When I started in 2016, it was a different structure. It hasn't harmed me from going there, but I think I am definitely ready to upload on my own platform.
Come soon.
Yeah.
Any other opinions on this one?
I would say, you know, doing your own platform is like a lot of upfront work, a lot of work. But I think it's important to realize that your own platform is one you can control and one that you can create your own marketing for. And I think it's really important and to not rely on someone else's platform. I do have some Skillshare classes, and you know, I took the approach with them as a learning experience. And if you do that as take it as a learning experience, then that is success, right? You're learning from what you're doing. You're getting real-time feedback from students before you even launch say your own platform or a bigger course. So I think if you're wanting to test the waters, you know, that would be, you know, an option. So there's also Udemy. I'm not on that one. So any of those you could try. But I think a lot of people are focusing on their own platform now. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but you know, from what I've seen in groups and things like that, yeah, people are wanting to focus on their own. So, and I mean, just from this group right here, you know, everybody's either thinking about it or has doing that. So
I'm going to throw in a follow-up question though, which is, I seriously don't know. Are there fees? Like, do you have to, not obviously there's going to be fees, but like, do you have to pay up front to be on the Skillshare platform? Or is maybe that one of the arguments for going with Skillshare, that you don't have to, you know, have those monthly recurring costs and things, like if you're building your own course on your own platform and you don't know if it's going to sell?
There's no fee to put your course on there that I know of. I mean, it's not. Yeah. So
no, that makes sense.
It's a great
argument then too, right? So maybe again, like the Rolls-Royce comparison, like maybe you want to have your own course on your own platform and build all that, but you know, it's going to cost you X hundred a month and you don't even know if you can sell the class once, then maybe that's going in too deep for the beginning. But
yeah, I think it's a great place to get started to learn. You know, and even see if it's yours, see if it's right for you. You know, I mean, like before you jump into it, you know, investing in your own platform.
You don't even like teaching.
I was going to say that Skillshare do have, I think it's a 6-week course now, because I had to record from the videos about how to record a demo. So you are put in a group and you're taken through the whole process. Back in my day, it was 4 weeks, and I just kind of managed it. No, I did miss like 2 deadlines, and then I did eventually manage it. But now it's a 6-week process where they will take you through. Like today, you're going to look at your thumbnail, or next week we're going to look at scripting, and next week we're going to look at lighting. So there is a bit of support throughout the process. That was very helpful at the time.
Is that required, or it's just there for support?
I don't know anymore. I think it's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what this program is called anymore.
I was just
I
thinking,
think it's
add
called the skill.
the X months that it's going to take you to create your course.
Yeah. I think it's called this the Teach Challenge.
Yes, I
And
think that might be
that's
it.
how
Yes.
I did my Skillshare class that way, and it was so helpful.
Oh, do you
I
walk
think
out
that my
at the
opinion
end with your own course, so to say? Is it kind of like that?
to put on Skillshare, yes.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so it's not like 6
Yeah.
weeks in addition where you're not moving forward with that. That's cool.
No, they like to keep tabs on you, and well, this was me, like that, like did you manage to create your like did you look at SEO this week? Just little nudges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did a teach challenge. That's what I first started with too. And it was really helpful. So I think it's a great place to get started if you've never taught anything before, and a great way to learn. So yeah.
You're all making this sound so enticing. Like it has definitely not been on my radar either to create a course, but now I'm like, this sounds really fun. That's cool.
I think also you could, I'm going to meet us in the middle here, because you could do both. Like you can start on Skillshare and you can pull it as long as it's behind the paywall, and then sell it on your own platform. And so starting on Skillshare, it's kind of like starting on Etsy. You like get a whole built-in audience, and it boosts your confidence, and you know that it's a sellable format, and then you can feel free to pull it and put it on your own website and sell the product or sell your class there as well.
That's such a helpful comparison. Thank you. All right, we have one additional audience question here from Bazooka Art Studio. How did you decide what you wanted to teach, and how did you build up the confidence to put out your first course?
Well, I'm a big fan of Mel Robbins, and at the time I was listening to her book, The 5-Second Rule, and it was just, I mean, that's all the rule is you just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you go. And I thought I could do this. So I just, every time I felt like self-doubt or intimidation or anything, I plugged in Mel Robbins. And it was false confidence in the beginning, for sure. And then I just started to feel like I could do it, but I didn't get stuck in thinking about it. Like I knew the steps that needed to be done. So if it was like, today I have to sign up for Vimeo, just go do it and don't think about why I'm signing up for it. Don't put any emotion to it yet, and then just keep going through the tasks.
I like that. 5 seconds of courage times 1,000 times, or however many steps you need to take.
Do it as many times as you need to. Like launch week, you always put on Mel Robbins. For me.
I was going to say that when I first started, my first class was about the food illustration, and I was still producing a lot of illustrated recipes for a website called They Draw and Cook, and he's like, why do they want me to teach this? That the imposter syndrome was like very big. But people said that you are associated with food illustration. At the time, I was, every other post was like, oh, I've produced a new illustrated recipe. And it just seemed obvious that because I was still in the process of creating whatever I created for They Draw and Cook was also going on my website. So that's how I got over that imposter syndrome. And I was getting large jobs from food illustrations, which I could put as examples in my class. So it was like what do they call it? Something or other loop, a positive loop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's got any relation to the question, actually.
No, but that makes sense. So you were also getting feedback, right, from the outside, kind of and I think a lot of as artists will have that, like maybe it's not something that's on your radar, but someone else will come to you and ask questions, or, you know, say, hey, this is something that you're really good at. So I think that makes sense as far as, you know, how you build up the confidence, or how you end up, you know, picking a topic.
I think I always told myself, if I'm scared of doing it, then it's probably what I need to be doing.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
like, you're always doing it,
Very wise.
being scared. And I love Brene Brown. And so I was reading her book when I started thinking about my course. It's the Bravely something. I can't remember. Now I'm the drawing
Daring Greatly.
Daring Greatly, yeah.
Daring Greatly, yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, okay, I can do this. I'm gonna just do it scared. You know, it's really fine. If I don't overthink it, and of course then you're like into it, and you're like, oh, I've told people I'm doing this. Okay, I'm doing it. You know? So you know, and I'm not the type of person to say I'm gonna do something and then not follow through with it. So you know, so I've got to. If I say I'm gonna do it, I've got to do it. So.
Forced accountability.
Yeah, especially big things. So, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's people that like do all the work silently in the background. That's not me. I can't do that. If I start something, I'm way too excited. And also, yes, I do kind of want people to, you know, I don't want to lose face, so to say, and just, you know, say I'm going to do all these things and then never show up and do them. So it makes sense if that works for you. So we have one more audience question, and then I'll have one or two more from my side, and we'll wrap it up. So RT Devasher Illustration asks, how did you plan the content of your course?
I started out with an outline, and based on the interviews that I did with potential students, I sent out an email to my email list, and I said, you know, if this is you know, jump on a one-on-one call with me. And basically I spent, you know, 30 to 45 minutes interviewing them, asking them some specific questions that helped me get a feel for what people were wanting to learn from me. And so that helped tremendously. And so then I started working on an outline based on those interviews, and it really helped me focus on, you know, what I needed to create that would help them. And so once I had the rough outline, then I started planning it out in a visual planner tool that I use. And then I'd create, you know, okay, this is what module 1 needs to be about to get them through from here to here. Basically, you know, I don't like the word framework, but it's kind of like that, you know, these are the steps, and this is the order that, you know, would be the most beneficial for them. And then as you're looking through that outline, you're thinking, okay, what is absolutely necessary, because you don't want it to be overwhelming either. So what can I pull out that is stuff I'd like to share, but not necessarily, you know, what they need to know. Because, you know, you could put the outline together and it could be like, you know, you have like a, you know, 20 module course, and that's just not doable, you know? So then it's like, okay, now I've got all these ideas, and I need to pare this down, and really it's basically like, you know, a writer would, you know, edit what they're creating. So you can do the same when it comes to a course. And so that's how I planned my course out. So the content for it. Yeah.
Makes sense. Longer is not necessarily better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, if you can identify the problem and then what you want the outcome to be, and you can fill in the steps in between those two places, then you can create a pretty loose outline. That way that'll help you plan it out.
That makes sense. Just, yeah, that's kind of a short and sweet way to visualize, right? What's the point of all this course? No, it makes sense, right? So you're not, you know, like completely veering off with all these details. It has nothing to do with the problem or the goal. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So I am going to ask one final question, which is, for artists interested in creating this income stream, in your opinion, what is the hardest thing and the best thing about creating online courses?
I would say the hardest thing is, oh, were you going?
No, go.
Oh, okay. I would say the hardest thing was deciding on the course platform. Initially, for me, that was the hardest
Really?
part, because there were so many options, and I spent months trying to figure it out and what would fit where I wasn't spending a ridiculous amount of money initially, and also the video editing, like that became overwhelming a little bit, but then once I got the hang of it and I got a rhythm for it and I was batching it, and batching is really important when you're doing a lot of the same steps, and it really does streamline what you're doing. But the best thing about creating the online course is seeing the student's success, and so yeah, that's the best thing. So yeah.
I think the hardest part is putting yourself out there, like, repeatedly. Like, if you want it to constantly be creating income, we have to talk about it all the time, and it's that way with, like, anything that we're doing, but it's so hard to keep doing it all the time, and I don't know, there's some number that floats around now that it's like somebody has to hear something 7 times or 9 times before it even clicks in our heads, because we're so inundated with so much information. And so I kinda keep that front of mind, like, "Oh, they probably haven't even heard this," just
That's
the
the
way the
thing
algorithm
too.
is or whatever, like, or your email gets buried, and so you have to
Right.
keep saying it.
Right. Like 9
But
times
I
isn't enough
agree.
because you're not reaching the people, right? You're not
Yeah.
reaching everyone 9 times in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but the best part, it really is watching the transformation that can happen in people's lives or their artwork and their confidence too. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted. The FedEx is dropping off like 9 I'm having like 9 boxes delivered right now of a new product.
You
And
can
I'm just
run out if
watching
you
them.
need to.
No, it's okay. I'm just watching him go back and forth, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, where am I going to put all of this product?"
That's exciting.
So the best part really is watching transformation, I think, for people.
Thank you.
No, I would agree with that. The marketing side of things, just trying to come up with more innovative ways of plugging or reminding people about various courses. Like, oh, I didn't know you had a masking fluid class. Really?
Yeah.
Like, I swear you're a student of mine. But the best thing, I think, would be meeting students in real life. It's a lovely community, and we chat. I chat with a lot of students on Instagram, and then now that I've started doing retreats, seeing them in person and just having a right old gaggle, just chatting like normal people. That's lovely. And painting together, and that's been the best part, I think.
That's so beautiful. Lots of votes for the community option. That's very, very cool. And it's kind of fun because I guess in that sense, then you get to create your own environment and community, right? So kind of set the tone, and that's really beautiful. I want to just show something because I had received a few images and I forgot to bring them up while you're talking. So I thought this was cool. I'm just going to mention it quickly. So I think this is an interesting view of, the setup that has been discussed, that it doesn't have to be like crazy with 10 cameras and all these things. You can have these views from the top down or the side. And that's really what, if you're focusing on an art course, people are going to want to see in detail. Ohn Mar, did you want to say anything else to this one?
This is from my most recent course on Skillshare, ink and tone paper, create beautiful florals. It's just mainly to work with shape and contrast. I tend to, I wouldn't say I produce pretty images. I want people to think about fundamentals. And I'm more into that than, oh, let's create a lovely bird box with lilacs growing around it. I don't know. It's like, no, I want to get down deep. I want to talk about contrast and values and shape. You know, like, yeah, we can do the bird box, but let's deal with this first.
It's really unique and gorgeous. I can tell you I do not use that much contrast in my artwork, so I should probably take your course. I don't think I've ever used such dark watercolor.
So I know amongst the Skillshare teachers, I make life trickier for students. Like, did you do your warm-up exercises? I can tell you didn't.
Dang.
I know you all do the florals, but you've got to do the warm-ups.
That's great. Thank you. And then Rebecca, your angle is different, right? Because you're more on the business side of things, but this is the kind of cool stuff that is probably being delivered right now in 9 UPS boxes.
Yeah. This is just highlighting products that I've had manufactured or put my artwork on. Because I think part too, like when we start out as artists, we all want to see our art on something, even an art print or whatever. And so that's why I started with product, was that it was an easier path than licensing, because licensing takes a lot of time. So that's
it takes forever, right, to get paid. So I hear.
Or just find the right people. Like the whole process it's a process.
Makes sense. Alrighty. Well, I want to give you, as the artists that are being interviewed, your final chance. Is there anything we haven't covered, anything you really wanted to bring up? This is your moment.
I think it is easier to create a course or a class than you think. What you're telling yourself in your head, you're just putting obstacles in the way, and it's your monkey mind telling you that. The first, I look at my early classes and the camera work and the sound is awful. But as we've touched upon, it was a learning exercise, and with each class you improve. So don't expect it to be perfect. I would definitely consider it as a very valid source of valid income stream. You should just do it.
Yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you go.
I love it. This is a wonderful note to end on. So I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for being willing to share all your experience and expertise. I think this is super encouraging, and also some very specific answers were shared as far as, how do you start? Which platform do you pick? So I hope for everyone watching, this was super helpful. And with that, tune in to our next episode, which is actually happening in 2 weeks. I promise. It's scheduled. I know we had a large break before this one, but thank you for watching. And here are some links, some information about the artists. Why don't you take a quick peek? I really hope you enjoyed that conversation. Please consider taking a moment to check out these links for the wonderful artists who so graciously shared their insight and their time with us today. And also, please consider subscribing. I think you're going to get a lot out of these future conversations. The next one we have on July 1st is about doing 30-day social media challenges. Is it worth it? I am actually doing it along with 3 other artists, and we're going to talk all about our approach and the results and all that good juicy info. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss when we're live.